Hey guys, how's it going? My name is MikeTheTech and welcome to another episode of our Unreal Engine tutorial. So today we're going to get into some blueprints. Blueprints are essentially Unreal Engine's visual coding plugin. So instead of having to use C++, we can use blueprints, which are basically nodes connected by linkages, and I will show you what that looks like shortly. So just like we made a new material, we're going to make a new blueprint. So let's go ahead and start with one of these blocks. I'm going to copy this and paste it over here by hitting Control-C and Control-V. Let me just check who that is. And I'm going to place it right near our player so that we can use it to test stuff on. And on this, or while I have this actor selected, I'm going to click on Blueprint/Add Script. And now I could call it something that I want. So I'm going to say Color Changing Cube. So we're essentially making a blueprint of this cube, which is going to have some code attached to it. So let's go ahead and go to our event graph. And we can see that there's 3 events here. None of them are being used at the moment because we haven't dragged off of any of these pins. But they are the most used nodes or event nodes. So we have event begin play, which happens as soon as the actor is spawned in the level. We have actor begin overlap, and that's when something goes through it or collides with it. And we have event tick, which is called every frame of the game, which is, if you're playing 60 frames a second, happens 60 times every second. But we're going to make a new event, and that's a hit event, which is going to detect when it gets hit by an object. So we're going to right click and choose and type in event hit, and now we have an event hit node. So anytime our object gets hit, this is going to run. So we just made a new material in our last video. So let's go ahead and change the material whenever it gets hit to that new material. So we're going to drag off of this execute node, and we're going to type in set material. And now we have set material. And it's going to target itself. We can actually choose my component as the target, and that will make sure that it's set to the right item that it's changing the material to. And then in the material, we're going to choose our red material. So let's type in red, and here it is. We can also grab this and, oh, I guess we can't. I thought we could drag it in. We can. Ignore me. So let's compile this and test it out. So I'm going to make this a little bit smaller so we can see the game window, but I'm going to raise this up so we can see when it executes. So let's go ahead and hit play. And now if I run into this, it turns into our nice chrome red color that we made. And that's it. That's all that happens. It's pretty cool. You can see the reflective surfaces, you can see the grass reflecting in it, the background, even the gun a little bit. So that's pretty nice. And every time I touch it, we can see that on the blueprint, it's being referenced and the flow is shown, so it says that event just occurred. Great, so now we have a basic blueprint. But let's make this a little bit more interesting. So let's have it change back to white after a few seconds. So let's go ahead and drag off of this node. So we'll say after it sets the material, do something else. And we're going to type in delay. Oops, if I could spell, that would help. And it's under flow control. We just click on delay. And the duration, we can actually choose any duration we want. So let's say 3 seconds. That sounds good. And after 3 seconds, then we're going to set material again. And there's lots of cool executable actions like play sounds, play particle effects. There's tons of really cool things that you can do in blueprints, and I'm just barely scratching the surface. But I'm going to go ahead and do set material again. And we see that it says it's referencing the static mesh component. That's fine, but I kind of like to keep it clean, so I'm going to go ahead and, just like this one, drag off of my comp and go to target. And I could just go ahead and delete this now. That way there's just one line going across, and we know that that is for the target. And both of the materials are being referenced in the same way. I just like having clean code. So if we drag this down here and hit compile and then play it, we can see that if I run into it, it changes to red, and then after 3 seconds, it sets the material back to white. And let's try it again. And it's really helpful and nice to be able to see the flow control happening, where you can see that orange down there in the blueprint, and then after 3 seconds it even shows you the countdown happening. So that's kind of how you know your code's working. And then we do need to set this back to base material. That way it changes back to white. We'll just test that again. So 1, 2, 3, and it's back to white. Great. And if we shoot it, it also changes color and changes back. So that's pretty much what we want, but I only want it to happen when we collide with the bullet. I don't want it to happen when we run into it, because that's just a little weird. That's not really a full hit event. I'm just kind of running into an object. I didn't shoot it. So let's go back to our blueprint, and I'm going to drag these over to make some room. And before I set the material, I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to type in cast 2, and then the bullet in the first person blueprint or template is called first person projectile. So we're going to type first person with no spaces projectile and choose this first one here. Now what this is going to do is it's going to say, well, it's not saying it yet, but this is basically calling and casting to our bullet. So it's going to say, did it get hit by our bullet? And the event is going to run even if we run into it still, because it's still going to go through this flow, I believe. Let's go ahead and test it out. Yeah, see, it won't even let us run it. What we're going to do is under event hit, you can see other. And this is where it's going to check what other object is hitting it. So let's compile this again, and we see that we don't have an error now. And what it's going to do is say if the cube is hit by the other object, first person projectile, then set the material. So we compiled this and dragged it down, and you can still see the flow here. And let's go ahead and test it. So if I run into it, nothing happens. I could even push it over and nothing's happening. But if I shoot at it, it changes color. And after 3 seconds, it changes back. So you could even make like a nice little shooting gallery where you have to shoot all the targets within a certain amount of time. Or maybe not use this code at all and just use it as learning blueprints. But yeah, I think that's where I'm going to stop this episode. And I hope you enjoyed the video, and thank you so much for watching. Leave a comment down below on what you think we should add next. I have some ideas myself, but it definitely helps to know what direction you'd like me to go in. Okay, so thank you so much for watching, and have a great day. Peace.